I knew at some point I was going to join the military, right? And the
Right.
military kind of became a way for me to kind of get ahead. And I kind of thought of it as that way too, right? As a way of
Mhm.
getting ahead. But I would, again, too, at that time, I didn't really know how to go about doing that and kind of was trying to go and do these things. And so I had made the decision to join the Navy and did that. But I got lucky in that this recruit or this chief petty officer who was kind of part of the recruit command or whatever he was doing, it said, you should think about this program. And it was called the Broad Opportunity for Officer Selection and Training. And he's like, hey, if you do this right, it can lead to an education. But, more importantly for what I was thinking at the time, more important than the education, and I didn't realize this until later on, but it will lead to a commission, which I kind of thought like, oh, okay, well, maybe that's the more that I want, right? Because
What do you mean by commission?
like commission as a commissioned officer.
Mhm.
So basically the military's, there's two career paths. You have enlisted ranks, and you have officers.
Right.
So the officers are like the ones who kind of, when you think of like your generals and admirals and stuff, and the kind of the leadership
Someone
there.
who was like a skilled professional who was hired by the military as opposed to someone who just joined the military.
Yeah, I guess you can kind of, in a way, kind of say it that way, right? But there's different ways to go. I mean, there's a lot of officers. There's programs where people start out enlisted and they work their way in there,
Sure.
right? Become officers.
So can you become an officer without having a college degree?
You can. It's not easy.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are ways. Like I say, the Navy had, I think they still have a program called a limited duty officer program,
Sure.
who were guys in the enlisted ranks, and technically you don't need a college degree for that, but to become an LDO, or you can become a warrant officer even, I think is another
Mhm.
way to kind of go about doing that. But I mean, now even more, I would say in the current military today, even a lot of the enlisted individuals are going on and earning college degrees as well. After the fact, after they've already been in there for a while. So, but I guess the easier way to kind of simplify it, right, is the officers were like the leadership. Uh, the enlisted guys were the guys who were actually doing the work,
Sure.
right? Um, and everybody in my family had always been enlisted.
Mhm. And so you didn't like taking orders anymore.
No, it wasn't so much that. I mean, I enlisted, so it wasn't like I wasn't going down that path.
But you wanted more than that. You wanted to
I
get
thought, well,
on top at some
if
point.
what if I wanted to be the leader,
Yeah.
right, instead of just a worker bee?
Sure.
And so that kind of the opportunity to kind of attend that program and get in there was kind of what kind of, um, I guess for me, kind of became that, okay, my path, right?
Yeah.
And at the time, I didn't really kind of, to me, the goal was to become an officer, and I didn't really kind of think about, oh, wow, you know what, I'm actually getting a good education along the way, too, in order to get to the eventual goal.
Yeah.
Right. But
No, I kind of learned a few things in my journey to be a big military dog. Yeah.
yeah. So, I mean, that kind of became my path there, right, to kind of go and my path to education. And then I think um, eventually the light bulb went on and said, wow, this has actually really kind of changed my life.
Mhm.
I earned my MBA while I was in the Navy, and then I later on, years after that, I went back to school again and got another master's degree in urban education policy.
It's
But
a lot of master's degrees.
I had just
Yeah.
two. But it was something that I wanted to do. I did the last one more for. Well, it was important for me because I thought it gave us a background what we were doing, me and my wife at the time, as far as our foundation. I think I needed more of an education background to kind of know what the schools were dealing with in order to kind of help, make a difference, right? And it actually became, the Cisneros Leadership Institute right there that we have at GW. Um, that actually came about because of my project that I did while I was in grad school working on my my master's in urban education policy.
What project?
That was my, I had to have like I guess like a keystone or cornerstone project or whatever that you kind of finished
like
in
a
there.
master's thesis. You kind of do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the project that I did and I developed actually became the Cisneros Institute.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's now they're at GW.
Right.
Yeah.
And That's a scholarship program, correct?
It is a scholarship program, but there are other programs. There are other things that we do with our own too. Um, uh, it provides scholarships to students, but it also provides them with some academic, because I always say the thing you learn too, right? It's our first scholarship student that we ever sponsored at GW. We had two, actually, our first two. One one had too much fun and kind of forgot why they were there.
Okay.
So they ended up, didn't work out academically. Let's just say that one.
Okay.
But the other one that was a little bit more crushing to us, I think, me and my wife, was she got homesick, and there was no kind of, there was no kind of base there for her to kind of be there and kind of there and support her. No support infrastructure.
Where was the student from originally?
California, up in the Bay Area, though, up north.
Okay.
And and look, in the Latino community, family is very important. It's very important in a lot of different communities. But I think the fact that she was there on her own, she didn't have, any family around, and kind of there trying to figure it out all on her own, was just a little bit too much. And she ended up just transferring back to school back in Northern California.
Yeah.
Which was unfortunate because, I always, whenever I talk to kids, it's about getting out of your bubble, getting there, kind of seeing a different part of the country, doing something. You can come back home anytime.
Yeah.
But why not think about going to school somewhere else where you can get a different experience and kind of develop your knowledge base of your individual knowledge and criteria and things, and have this experience to say like, oh yeah, I lived over there, or I never would have traveled to New York if I had never come to GW, like as a, I came to GW, right? But there are things I would have done because I was over here that I never would have done if I had stayed in California. And then one of them was like visiting New York, going to spring break in Daytona Beach, which I don't think is I don't know if that's still a big thing now, but those are just.
They go to Fort Lauderdale. The GW students, a lot of them go to Paris, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Times have changed. But those experiences, right? If I had just stayed in California, there were a lot of things that I never would have experienced, maybe till later in life.
Yeah.
That I got to do while I was younger.
It's tough. Yeah. I mean, that story about the student leaving because they felt homesick, it's sad, but I understand it in terms of what I've observed at GW. It's not like other schools where it's really easy to just like have the community of people naturally.
Right.
GW is a school where students come a lot of times from privileged backgrounds, but not always, from all parts of the country, because they want a lot of times to have an impact on our government. They're passionate about the issues genuinely, but underneath that, a lot of students are truly just filled with ambition, which is good. But from what I've observed, sometimes that raw ambition can sort of lead someone to not want to connect and just leave like everything on the table to connect with others more. Build your community, right? Yeah. And I think, coming to GW, it's truly led me to face the fact that I have to strike that balance, because of course I came here and passionate about the issues and wanting to build a career in politics or whatever. That being said, I knew that I was going to be miserable if I didn't like treat enjoying myself or finding people that would actually make my life worth living almost like a duty and a job for a while, if not the entire time.
Yeah, I mean, you have to find I always say, like, I just call it your support infrastructure, right? Your group of friends that you can hang out with and stuff there, that you're going to be there, that when you need that shoulder, right, or something to cry on, or or somebody to laugh with and to have fun with there. And when I was at GW, it kind of came natural for me because I had with ROTC, Navy ROTC, I had this built-in group of people that were there, and some of them I had already known before from my time in the Navy. that where we kind of came together and, we became just naturally kind of became our own little group right there where
Sure.
we supported each other and did everything together and hung out together and, studied together, when we were going through those physics
course,
and calculus classes. And, and that was it, right? And I think that's, the thing we found out that student never was able to find that. So with Cisneros, I'd like to think we kind of created this infrastructure to where there is this kind of built-in support infrastructure for a new person coming who may be coming, still may be the first in their family to go to college, still may, be the only one from their high school coming to school here, right? And, maybe even the only one from their community, right? Especially if they're coming from somewhere like far away, like California or some other place. But there's a group of people there who have already kind of gone through what they're doing and kind of help guide them and become their friends and stuff like that in order to help them out. And so, yeah, to me, that's important. And, for anybody who's going to college in order to do that.